to drive around and talk about the latest happenings. This is the channel you need, so subscribe and follow Carmentary.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Carmentary. My name is Neil. Today I'm gonna talk again about Japan, where I live. Money. We're gonna talk about money. Not enough money. I talked in a recent Carmentary episode about how the prices in Japan, especially for food and the service industry, are very low, have stayed low since I came to Japan like 30 years ago. The price of a ramen is like exactly what it was 30 years ago when I came. So the price has not really increased with the times. I discussed that, and on that episode I got a really nice, I got a couple comments, and they were all really informative and nice, and I really appreciate those comments, so please send more if you can. One of the comments talked about tipping. The fact that there is no tipping in Japan at restaurants and service kind of industry stuff at all. It's just not, no one tips here. It's just not a part of the culture, never has, never was. But maybe we can change that. So I had an idea because of that great comment. First of all, it made me realize that I'm such a bird brain. I've been here too long. I didn't even think about the whole tipping argument. Even though I had been back to the States recently, a couple weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas, spent some time there with the family. We did go out to eat once or twice at a restaurant, and that meal was paid for by the person who invited us there. So the tip was taken care of. I didn't even think about it, and maybe that's why it wasn't on my brain. But when I got that comment, I was like, yeah, of course there's that extra cost when you go eat in any, in Europe, in America, Canada, pretty much everywhere except Japan. I don't know what other countries don't tip. I don't really know the list, but Japan is definitely one of the few where you don't tip and you just expect good service. So the comment was that there's like a leeway to raise the prices because the foreign tourists who come to Japan are so used to tipping that if you minus that out, boy, you're getting a bargain right there. Plus, the meal is probably cheaper than the same thing would be at home. In that particular comment, there was mention of a soft ice cream shop in California with the tip. I think it said, including everything, it was like $12 for a soft ice cream. Incredible. That's double. Our soft ice cream, our highest, in a cone, normal soft ice cream is 580 yen. We raised our prices close to like 100 yen from the last year because our soft cream mix has increased in price. Shipping prices have gone up. Everything across the board has gone up. So the prices are inching up, but it still does not feel like it equals what all the costs are. So yeah, that kind of hit me. I was like, yeah, tipping. You're right. How can we mandate a new tax for the people? A tax for the service industry workers of Japan. We need mandatory tipping. I'm against mandatory everything else except tipping. All right, maybe I'm not into mandatory tipping. That sounds like a bad idea. But I think that's a good point. And the tricky thing about Japan is if you let restaurants and corporations raise the prices for a tip, they would probably just pocket it and never give it to the workers. The fact that that money goes direct to the waiters and waitresses of the world, and people carrying your bags to your hotel room, etc. That I think is the whole point. It's a nice little in-pocket. It greases the wheels, right? Personally, after having been in Japan so long, tipping I don't like it anymore. It's very strange to me. There's a couple things that are strange about it to me. First of all, this sort of like across the board, you're supposed to pay 20% for just everything, like no matter what it is. Even on websites now. I've been seeing that on some websites where I placed an order. Fiverr is a website where they always ask you to tip the creator. I kind of understand that. You're paying someone who's a designer or an artist or some kind of creator to make something for you. And if it was a person-to-person deal, that would be the kind of thing where you would give a little extra to show your appreciation for the effort. When it's on a website, you never see or talk to the person directly. It does feel a little different, and it's easier to kind of cop out of the tip, that's for sure. But now, I just ordered last week a neon sign through a website for our store. It was a bargain. It's an all-English website. It looks like it could be an American or British website, but it turns out it's a Chinese outfit. The LED neon sign came in about a week, and by the way, it was really good. And they asked for a tip, and I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, that's not the kind of thing I would feel like I'd be tipping for, right? Has tipping changed? Is it now like an across the board, like you just should tip for everything, even a website? I mean, I understand that there's some human in the factory making this neon sign for us, but it's rather impersonal. It could be anybody. It could be a robot. They could have a robot machine making the LED sign. I wouldn't know, but they asked for a tip anyway. So I see that tipping has kind of shifted in the last couple decades. Plus, when I do go back to the States and I do go to a restaurant, I always like, okay, here's another story. I went to Russia many, many years ago, twice, and both times there was a lot of tipping, but it's a different type of tipping. You actually pay the money beforehand to get what you want. Which is like, is that blackmail? No, what is that called? Bribery. Yeah, bribery. Basically, we went to that famous museum in St. Petersburg. I forget the name of it right now. All the art, probably a ton of it's like fake, but Picasso's, and they had all the great art. Beautiful museum in St. Petersburg. There was a huge line of people, and one of the security guards, our guide, like spoke to the security guard and paid off the security guard some money. We went around to the back of the museum, and we got to go into the museum from the exit, and then we were like given a personal guide inside the museum, which we didn't really need, but we got anyway. And we got guided throughout the museum, all that included, just because we tipped the security guard. That, I thought, was actually like a pretty cool thing. You can get somewhere with that kind of tipping. You can really like get stuff done. I mean, there was all kinds of that stuff. I had to pay a tip to the like a security guard at the airport. He got me past the security checks and everything with like no security checks, just straight to the gate and on my plane. There were all kinds of situations like that, and at first you're like, whoa, this is heavy, man. I'm just like, gotta pay off everybody to get anything done. But then later, when I look back on it, I actually kind of liked it. That's what tipping is, right? You want to get something, you want to get a better service, you want to get something, and a little greasing of the wheels, you get it done. In America, modern day, you just pay later. It's an implied bribery. It's like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna have a meal, I'm gonna have this, and if you're nice and cordial and you do your thing, then I will give you 20% of the bill at the end. And it's just like, it's just been shifted to the end of the meal. I would almost prefer it to be at the beginning, like, hey, here's $20, come on, get us our food, make sure you bring waters, whatever, be attentive. Anyway, I always get frustrated with that carbon copy-paste style of service in restaurants in America. It's like everyone has the exact same, it's like the same lines and everything. Like, how y'all doing? That little greeting. It's like almost exactly the same. And then there's that, you get your food served, and then there's that one check where they like come over to the table and they do the, how's everything for you? Or there's like some like kind of generic line thrown out, and there's like that dead, glazed look in the eye, like, I don't really give a shit, but I gotta say this to you so I can get my tip. This is for the tip. It's like, there's no, well, let's just say it's rare to find someone like really who doesn't have that dead glazed look in their eye, comes over, actually like looks and reacts to the people at the table. Can I get you more of that? How was your steak? Was it good? Like actual questions that relate to the people and what you ordered, not that generic thing. Anyway, that I always get that feeling, and that just makes me want to go like, you ain't getting 20%. I don't know. It's just sort of like, why does there have to be this exact fee that you're supposed to pay depending on what your bill was, even though the work done really didn't change, or maybe it was that generic, glazed eye waitering. If the service is great and the person's like super attentive and then gives you advice on where to go after your meal and talks to you, oh, totally, that's worth a tip. I'm all for that. I'm not saying I'm not. Anyway, kind of went off on a tangent on tipping, but great point, great comment, and I'm trying to figure out how we can bring that. Obviously, making something like tipping happen in Japan is really, really difficult. I would say near impossible. To convince Japanese people who have never done that in their lives to start tipping, wow, I just don't see that happening at all. Even for foreigners, what I've noticed, we put a small little tip jar at our cafe at the ski resort in the winter because there are a lot of foreign tourists, and it's like, hey, maybe they'll tip. Very little. I think a lot of foreigners come to Japan and they're like me. They're like, oh, we don't have to tip here. This is great. Let's just save that money up and we'll go buy some more beer. They get excited. So it's kind of hard to convince the foreign tourists to tip in Japan, no less the Japanese who live here. Tricky. One little thing I did notice, and we took advantage of this, Japanese people and Japanese culture, what they are used to is putting a little change in the donation box at any kind of a shrine or a temple. Now that is part of the culture that we have here that you don't have in the rest of the world. Except, I guess, at church, you're putting some money in the donation box. But here in Japan, you don't have to be super religious, Buddhist, whatever. It's just common that if you go somewhere, especially if you're on a day trip or you're traveling and you visit an area and you see the little shrine on the street corner, there's always a little box in front of it, and people will go up and they'll do the little clap, ring the bell, put a little donation in without even thinking about it. Just like you would tip after a meal in the States. You don't even think about it. You just do the calculation, put in the money. Same thing, they will do that. And that, because I'm part of a small community here, I know how it works. There's two things. There's temples and shrines. The shrines are all local, usually built many, many years ago by whoever first came there and set it up on a sacred rock or on a little valley or a hill or whatever it happens to be. And that was like the shrine that was sort of overlooking that area, taking care of it, making sure the crops grew and the rain fell, etc. Those are managed by the community. It's not like there's a priest or some kind of, religious character behind it. In Jozanke, where I live, we have a little shrine, and it's run and managed by the community. They do like an accounting thing every year. And all that money that comes in the donation box gets stored up, put in some account somewhere. And occasionally they need to paint the building, or if there's a festival coming up, they'll hire some people to come and play the traditional flutes, and all that money comes out of the donation box. So it's a nice little kind of system. Money comes in, the money goes out, it supports the shrine takes care of the community, etc., etc. Temples are a little different. Temples, you have Buddhist monks. There's different sects. There's different groups. They have a different, structure. It's like a business in a way. And they get a lot of money from funerals, blessings of cars and buildings and construction sites. The monks will go out and they'll perform their duties, and there'll be like a nice envelope full of cash. All cash business. They don't do that cashless thing at the temples, at least not that I've heard of. So that is something that is cultural here. And long story, but we put a very small, I bought on Amazon a little kit where you could, it was like a little model. You could put together this little mini shrine with a little donation box, and we put that on the counter at the cafe where people would wait to get their coffee and their food. And that thing actually collected more change than our little tip box did. So maybe that's the way to go about it. Maybe the solution is to build a shrine in front of every restaurant, cafe, and bar out there, so that people feel like, oh, I better put some change in the little shrine there so that I don't get sick after I eat my meal. And then we can all just be scooping up the change at the end of every night, going, there, split it, everybody. Yeah, something like that. Well, off on a bit of a tangent there today, but I do appreciate the comments, and that did open up my idea to the fact that, yeah, we are living here in Japan without a tipping system, so there should be an extra 20% or more of cash sort of floating around in people's pockets that could be added to the menu. And hey, I'm all for raising the prices on the products and then distributing. I want to pay our staff more. I do, for sure. I want to pay myself more. I'm in there, I'm doing the work, I volunteer. I don't even get paid at my own business. It doesn't work like that. I get nothing. I'd love to get a salary. And I'd love to pay everyone else more. Because, hey, I understand how expensive it is to survive in the world today. Alright, that is my little commentary for today. Let me know if you have any more ideas and how we can all work together here in Japan to get the prices up where they should be. I guess is what I'm trying to say. When you just say raise prices, it does sound bad. Raise taxes. Japan is working hard to raise taxes again, by the way. There's a new value-added tax that's coming online this year. And I do believe they're talking about raising the sales tax again. So a few more taxes may be on the way. All right. Thanks for listening as always. I'll be back with more ASAP. In the meantime, drive safe.
If you like to drive around and talk about the latest happenings, this is the channel you need. So subscribe and follow Carmentary.